I really wanted to talk about flatware today because that's one of my favorite things, especially recently, to talk about to my customers and sell in the business. It's a really, really exciting opportunity. And I think it's something that's kind of underlooked or overlooked in our company, and that can really, really help increase your sales. Um, so, why sell flatware? Right? Flatware can really, really, really be a game changer for people who invest in Cutco. So I just want to talk a little bit about why it's awesome for customers. People really get fired up about it. Some people will literally fall in love with our flatware just as much, if not more, than with their knives. You got to realize, like, when you think about it, for people who cook maybe like 2, 3 times a week, they're using their knives a little bit, and maybe they have our flatware, they're probably using our flatware more, believe it or not, because we use forks and spoons like every day, right? So the best thing about Cutco is keeping it top of mind so that they buy more. I think flatware, when you sell it to our customers, keeps our products top of mind more than a lot of different things that we can sell because people use it so dang much. So once your clients get flatware on top of their knives, they're going to be really, really hooked on our product. That's one thing that really fires me up. It's like once I sell someone a set of knives, and then right after I sell them a set of flatware, I'm like, now they're really in for it. Now they're using Cutco on all angles, right? So it's just kind of like selling a smaller set and then upgrading people later. You know how you've had people who buy a galley or a homemaker, and later they're like, hey, we want this signature, this ultimate. People will add to their flatware set too. People get really excited about it. And as their family grows, there's more grandkids or there's more children or whatever, they're going to be adding more place settings. And the fact that our design stays the same for them is going to be huge. So people just underestimate what selling flatware does long term for their business and also for their customers. So that's one thing I get really excited about. Um, Customers get spoiled once they have something of quality too. Uh, once they have our knives, they will wonder why everything isn't American made and guaranteed forever. A lot of you guys are probably in the same boat. You guys probably, after selling Cutco, you probably go out to the store now and you're like, okay, is this American made? And is this going to last me, right? Customers are thinking the same exact thing when they get their knives. So that's why when you introduce more American made, high quality, guaranteed forever products, they're all about it because they're spoiled already, right? So people can take a lot of pride in having one of their most used household items be American made now. I think moving our flatware from Mexico was such a good call. Like people take so much pride in the American made thing, especially out in Texas. It's just guns, God, and country out there. People just love our flatware that it's made in America. So keep this in mind too. Customers have egos. So they get really excited about pressing people with the flatware. So ask myself if someone is looking at the flatware from a logical standpoint, or if they're wanting it to impress or to kind of use for other people, or either one. So, but I always think about that. Are they looking at this from a logical standpoint, or are they looking to impress people with this? Right? You'd be surprised how many people will just constantly be thinking about what other people think about the flatware they're about to buy, because it's a very social piece if they entertain when you think about it. So just remember, people are going to want to show off their flatware when they get it. So use that desire to sell them more, right? Not to mention what they're saving money wise just by getting our flatware. That's one thing that's really exciting too. You'd be blown away by how many people will spend just as much as it costs to get a set of Cutco flatware over their lifetime on other random flatware. Like some people have so many different random sets, it's insane, and they spend so much on it. So the reality is people move, they get new sets, stuff goes missing, their case changes, etc. If you get someone to fall in love with our flatware and you position it as their forever set, they will literally never waste a dollar on another thing. Unless of course they buy more flatware from you, right? Because they love it. So the deal Cutco runs on flatware is phenomenal too. I love this. So I always express to people that I say, Mrs. Jones, this is the best deal I've seen Cutco corporate do on anything in my 7 years of working here. Because it really is. Overall, for the customer, the flatware is just a killer deal, both price wise and value wise. So let's think about it, how it can impact your business, though. Um, I'm very service first. I'm always top of mind to how this is going to impact my customer, but on the back end, there's us too, right? So flatware has really increased my average order more than most things in our business, especially this year. I've had a few home shows, guys, where I kid you not, I sold just as much flatware as I did knives. One of them a couple years ago, I sold more flatware than I did knives. Crazy. Like, imagine if I didn't have that in my arsenal. I've had a flatware chest save my day at like a slow market days. I worked a really slow event that I maybe talked to like 6 people all day, and I closed one person on a 5 piece and upsold a flatware chest. It was like an $1,800 order. Saved my day. I maybe had a knife after that, right? On service calls, I've sold an upgrade and a flatware bundle in a day that I had literally all no sales before, right? No sale, no sale, no sale, no sale. Last appointment of the day, flatware and cookware, right? Flatware chests can literally add 50 to 100K in business or more per year for you. I know for some of you guys that seems like an astronomical number, but it's really not. Mike Dowd had a massive focus on flatware one year, and it literally became close to a third of his sales for the year. A third, almost 200 grand. That's a lot of flatware. And a lot of you guys are trying to increase your average order, right? We want to get more efficient in this business. So imagine if you added a flatware chest to every set you sold, or even 20% of the time. At 20% of the sets you sold, imagine if you added a flatware chest to that. That's what's been increasing my average order at the booth. It's just been adding these on, right? A lot of the time, this doesn't happen though because people just don't talk about it. I really think it really just comes down to it. Every single talk that I've heard, guys, whether it's cookware, flatware, business gifts, hunting knives, the main takeaway that I get from every single one of those talks is just talk about it more. Like, seriously, it really makes that much of a difference. Why do you think new reps sell so much flatware? It's because they pointed a picture of it. They say, this is Cutco. It's awesome. And you'll have it forever. And it's guaranteed made in America. And guess what? People buy it, right? They don't even have a pitch. So just show it. You're going to sell what you show. So I think the fact that we get to advertise such a crazy discount on something and still get close to full CPO is also amazing. Like, we should be really grateful for that, and we should also take advantage of it as long as Cutco lets us, right? Um, like, think about making an extra like 10, 25, 50K a year on selling forks and spoons. Like, that's absolutely crazy when you think about it, but it's totally possible. So I always wonder, what would it look like to just have almost just have a flatware booth, right? We've had just cookware booths. We used to sell just knives at the booth. Like, I bet it would actually do pretty well. I tell you, it'd be one of the sexiest, shiniest booths we've ever made. Just flatware chests everywhere, right? But the reason I focus on learning to sell everything we make is, honestly, I'm terrified of missing opportunities. That's one of the main motivators for me being really well rounded in this business and knowing how to sell everything we make. Like, the idea of somebody walking up to the booth or being on a service call where you really need a break, or maybe you're trying to have your biggest day and you didn't sell them a flatware chest, even though they were interested or qualified. Like, that's painful to me. That's painful. And that's what got me selling business gifts. I've run into business owners that I'm like, I totally missed that opportunity. And then that eventually was like, no more missed opportunities, right? So getting good at this part of the business means more money in your pocket and more stuff for your customers to buy long term. So I have a goal to get as many of my customers as possible up to a Cutco kitchen. So the last sale that I ran for my customers, by the way, at least 25% of my sales from that sale that I ran came from flatware chests. Like, that fires me up. And I'm so grateful that I, put the time and the energy into learning this early on. So transitioning a little bit, let's talk a little bit about display tips. So a lot of you guys work fairs and shows. Some of you guys do service calls. I'll give you a couple tips on that. But for shows, it's really important to have a good display with your flatware chest, because that's what creates a lot of attraction to our flatware. By the way, if you guys don't have a full chest yet and you're working shows or even just doing a lot of service calls, I've sold a lot of flatware chests on service calls just by being like, let me go grab this in my car and bringing it out, right? But you should invest. It's totally worth it. Sell one because you bought it and you break even. It just makes sense. So there have been so many people at the booth that will walk up just because they saw the flatware. I've sold people who never have owned Cutco in their life or never even heard of Cutco a set of our flatware before. But it's eye catching, and eye catching is the key. And the chest just looks so amazing. So having it on hand is clutch. So and talk about making Cutco look high end too. Most people will come up to the booth, they'll look at the chest on the booth and be like, "Oh, this stuff is expensive," which is exactly what you want people thinking, right? I learned that from Curtis JQs. He said, "You want people thinking Cutco is expensive right off the bat." And the flatware chest does that. So don't have your flatware all nicked up. Have a chest that's nice and clean and not beaten up. It's pretty easy for coordinators to order more chests and new place setting of flatware and put on top of the old one. So that's always a good investment. Get a chest with a place setting of flatware every so often, just so you can have a brand new chest and you can have some nice stuff right on the top. Right? It's a small investment that'll go a long way. And so big thing that we tried at the State Fair, Texas, um, was having lighting on the flatware. If you can manage to get some lighting on your flatware chest, this will make a huge, huge difference. And a lot of people actually came up to us at our booth displays and complimented us on like lighting on our flatware. They said it looked awesome. Um, so the thing is, if you can light things up, it's key just in general at the booth, because lighting is a very underutilized form of attracting people to our displays, in my opinion. So also make sure you invest in the serving pieces and you have a place for it, like a place for them, a plate, either a really nice placemat or like a plate for them. So that way it looks really classy. There's nothing that looks better than like a beautiful flatware chest, little propped up, with some lighting on it, and then like the 6-piece serving set on a plate right in front of it. It just looks gorgeous. It's awesome. So, and this is also crucial if you're going to sell the full set, because people want to see and feel the flatware a lot of the time. I can't tell you how many chests I've closed just by grabbing all the serving pieces and putting them in front of them. Like, hey, you guys get these too. They're like, oh, awesome. So I actually like when people come up and touch and feel the flatware because it creates more interest. It's really funny because anytime somebody comes up and starts touching our flatware, I'm like, you're done. I may not sell this to you right away. I might sell you knives first, but I'm going to sell you this stuff. Um, so I like people interacting with it. So one thing I can't understand is why people put flatware like on the back of the table. Never, ever, ever, ever do this. Flatware should be front and center. Like your priorities of real estate on the booth should be like your ultimate set, then your flatware, and then like maybe a cookware pan or something, because those are the main programs that we make. Like honestly, you could put signature and a homemaker on the back table before you do a flatware chest. So it needs to be front and center so everyone can see it and interact with it. Um, when you think about it, with the CPO that you get from a flatware chest, that would be like keeping your homemaker on the back table, which you're probably not going to do. So, what I've seen people doing recently that I really like too is displaying the chest on another chest, so it gives it some elevation. Like they close a flatware chest and put the open flatware chest on top of it. It looks really cool and gives it a little bit more pop. So I'm also really loving the transition that a lot of people are making to putting everything on shelves and elevating it. It just looks awesome and it catches people's eyes as well. So most of the home shows and fairs that I work now, we always have shelves for things. I just need to be conscious of what you're giving real estate to at the booth. And I really started taking this to heart after I heard a call on business gifts a few months ago, where we're like, John Cloby, who had 100K business gift orders, like, why are you giving real estate on your booth to your kitchen tools? That's 200 CPO. You replace that with a business gift, that could be 1,000 to 10,000 CPO, right? So just be conscious of what you're giving real estate to. Give the flatware prime real estate. So I always make sure I have a place setting of flatware right next to me at all times. I've transitioned to using no individual knives, and it's been awesome because all I have out is a set of cookware, a flatware chest and serving pieces, uh, you know, the 3 sets, homemaker, Siggy, and galley, some gadgets, a business gift or two, and a place setting of flatware. I always have a place setting of flatware, maybe some hunting knives too. But that's all you need. But the flatware is a key piece of real estate for my booth. When it comes to appointments, I never walk into a house without a place setting of flatware. I stopped showing knives on my appointments years ago, but I always bring a pan to show the vapor seal, and I always bring the flatware so that they can see it and they can feel it in person. So I always like leaving the plate for those of you that do service calls and appointments. I always like leaving the place setting out on the table next to them, so it subliminally gets them thinking about what it looks like on the table when they set the table, right? So I always leave it out. I don't put it away. So and if you don't have the flatware chest inserts, by the way, and you do have a flatware chest, I highly recommend those. Jacob Gordon sells them. They're awesome. It's kept my chest in awesome shape for the last like 3 years since I've had it, 3 4 years. Um, Also, you should have like 20 pillowcases in your booth just to store your sets, your flatware, your cookware, all that stuff. But make sure you have the chest is not of the highest quality. I think we could improve it a little bit, but it damages easily. So you need to keep a case of some sort or like a pillowcase for it. So just make sure that thing doesn't get too beat up. Um, Also, to keep the chest from breaking, like the top of it from snapping, you should put a garden trowel or something behind the chest to kind of hold it up. So taking good care of your flatware chest will definitely pay off at some point. There's always going to be that one situation that comes up that someone looks at it and they're like, "Oh, this is like really scratched," or like, "Oh, this flatware chest is all beat up," and they're not impressed, and that could have cost you hundreds of dollars. So make sure you're taking care of the flatware chest. Make sure you're giving it prime real estate. Always have a place setting of flatware right next to you so you can hand it and show people right away. Okay. So those are some tips on display. Okay. So let's talk about pain points. So I find it's really important to build value in how awesome the flatware is, but it's just as important to create pain points for them with what they have. Okay. So, because what do we do as salespeople? We create a problem and then we solve it, right? Or we help people realize their existing problems and we solve that underlying problem for them, right? A lot of people don't know they have crappy flatware until they see ours, just like with the knives. So, there's quite a few issues that people have with flatware that you might not know about, actually. So, I find one of the most popular ones is they have a big mismatch set at home. So a lot of the time they've accumulated, lost, accumulated more, lost, accumulated more, lost. And the cycle kind of goes on, right? So it's really embarrassing for people when they set the table and literally nothing matches, especially when they have company. They're like, what the heck, right? So a lot of people are kind of OCD too, and they just haven't tackled the problem of having mismatched flatware because they haven't been offered a good solution yet. That's all it is. Like a lot of time, you'll have people walk up and they're like, "We weren't thinking about flatware, but now that I think about it, like, yeah, we have a whole mismatch set. Our stuff sucks, right?" Now, when people have an incomplete set, they want to fix it, but a lot of brands continue to they always discontinue their designs to create more planned obsolescence to get them to buy more. You guys got to realize that when someone has something that needs to be replaced, they're 71% more likely to go with a brand that they're familiar with. That's why companies do this. That's why companies discontinue designs, create things to break. It's because once they get somebody on a product and it's planned to break on them, they're most likely to buy that same product again in that same brand. So, and it might not even be the best stuff in the world, but it's still top of mind for them. It's crazy. So most people don't sit down on their computer, by the way, and go on an online hunt for their flatware pieces. Most of them just deal and they just settle with what they have, which totally sucks. So the other struggle people have is bending and breaking flatware. The cheap stuff always bends. If they try to get ice cream out, and stuff will literally break over the years. Like it's insane. It's really annoying for people to have something that looks really durable and actually isn't. Like that's frustrating. When you look at a piece of metal, you should be like, this should not bend, right? It's metal, but it happens with people's flatware, and they're like, what the heck? So the other problem is losing flatware. Like it's going to happen to people. They need to know that the process to replace things is going to be easy for them because the last thing that they want to do is do it themselves. People are lazy. So I always give a personal guarantee that I'll replace their first 4 forks or spoons at a third. That's $40 in total. That $40 is totally worth it to me to build value in myself. Which side note, I totally use that to build value in myself and them buying from me there right now at the booth or me there right now on that service call. Because I'm like, this is my personal guarantee. I will buy you your first 4 forks and spoons. Not every rep is going to do that for you. That's why you should buy it from me right here, right now. Right. Anyways, other issue people have is just having too much stuff. When people tell you they have 4 sets of flatware, they sometimes are very open to the idea of downsizing to 1 set. Some people will use that as an objection, but some people will literally be like, "Yeah, I don't know why I have so much of this stuff. I need to kind of break it down a little bit." So I tell people just to simplify, and trust me, the husband is always on board with this because a lot of men like to simplify. So another problem is the dishwasher thing. Uh, Dishwashers are a problem for a lot of flatware. It creates rusting. And just like with knives, people are sick of their knives rusting. Like they don't want their flatware to do that either. So people get extremely irritated when things rust because now they know it's cheap quality stainless. And they're like, what did I just buy? So dishwasher safe is a huge thing because nobody really hand washes their flatware like they do the knives. So those are just some pain points. Make sure you take note of those because if you can hit on all of those with a customer, you're going to really relate with them and you're going to really bring that problem to the surface, right? Chances are they've struggled with one of those things in their lifetime if they're looking at the flatware, right? And just side note too, if people are looking at your knives, your cookware, your flatware, a lot of the time they have a problem. Sometimes they just like it and they want high quality, like, ooh, this looks nice, but a lot of people will have a problem. So you need to bring that problem to the surface. So let's talk about closing. I wanted the last thing I wanted to cover was closing before I just went into my approach for you guys. Okay. So closing flatware chests is definitely an art because there's a lot of different ways to do it. So one thing you all should start doing is triple closing on flatware. Just like we close on a homemaker, signature, and ultimate, which one worked better? We don't have one set of flatware, guys. We have 3 sets of flatware. We have a 12 place setting, a 24 place setting, and a 36 place setting. They all come with the stainless serving pieces, and the 36 place setting actually comes with two 6-piece serving pieces. So 12 in total. So by doing this, you make the 12 place setting look small and you're going to sell a lot more of them. And you'd be surprised, you'll actually sell a lot more double flatware chests too. I haven't sold any 36 place settings yet, but if somebody's looking for a gift, they want 2 for themselves and 1 for another person, or they want to give 2 away, that will happen. Or if they just do that much entertaining, they'll get it, right? So the question I always ask people is, would you be more of a 12 place setting, more of like a 24 place setting, or more of like a 36 place setting type of household? Would you guys need 12, 24, or 36 place settings of this stuff? So when I pitch flatware, I always ask if they would like to see the price too. So I always go through the approach and I go, so do you guys just want to see how much it costs? And that really gives me permission to sell them on it. Price positioning with flatware is key, and I find a lot of people forget to do it. I'm like always blown away when I'm working the booth by like how many people forget to do a price comparison on flatware. But it can be really helpful. So always do a price comparison, unless they're like they have a really blunt personality, builder type personality, or they just have a ton of money and don't care. Usually you want to do a price comparison. The biggest thing that's increased my flatware sales though is selling it at the $16.67 full price with the serving pieces. It gives me an extra drop down, which is so clutch a lot of the time. One thing that I just really work on at the booth is I don't just drop down. I don't just ask them to order once or twice. I ask them to order like 5 times, and I give them a different deal like almost every single time. So I always need to have some ammunition. So, if somebody's like, hey, you know what? I want to think about it. You're like, hey, totally cool. Right? Hey, let me write this down so that way we can know exactly what you were looking at. So that way you guys can walk around and digest it for a little bit, right? So you write it down for them, and then you come back with a pad. You should be like, hey, before you guys take off, just so I know, is it safe to say you'll probably get the flatware at some point one day? They're like, yeah. Like, cool. And just so I know, so I can help you out, if you really, really wanted it to, could you make blank fit into the budget? Make sure you have rapport before you ask that question, by the way. Be like, cool. Well, and if they say yes, be like, cool. Well, here's the deal. I don't know how long Cutco is going to be doing this discount for. And I want to make sure as your Cutco rep that I'm going to save you guys some money in the long run. So let me just ask you this. If I gave you a super crazy, awesome, ridiculous turbocharged deal that you most likely won't see ever again, would you at least be able to give me the courtesy of a yes or a no right now before you take off? Right? They just leave it open ended. And my philosophy at the booth is nobody leaves my booth without telling me the truth. I do not let anybody go without giving me a yes or a no. Somebody says, "Hey, it's not going to happen today." Be like, "Cool. I'm glad I did everything I could for you. Sorry I couldn't help you out." But, a lot of time they'll go for a yes, right? Yes or a no. So that's why I always ask that question. So that's one of the closes. Offer a super crazy awesome turbocharged deal. A lot of people will always ask, "Well, oh, would you maybe go for it?" I always just ask for yes or no. That's just my style. So, uh, by the way, if they expressed interest in something else, like maybe they expressed interest in a couple knives or like a couple gadgets or something like that, you guys want to do the bells and whistles close. Um, and the bells and whistle close is pretty simple because it's either offer them free stuff or a discount. So the way I usually like to phrase it, let's say they're looking at like a petite santoku and a cheese knife, but they also want a flatware chest. They'd be like, "Hey, really quick before you guys take off, you know, same exact approach, right? And it's safe to say you'll probably get it at some point. Cool. Would that fit into the budget if you really wanted it to? Okay, cool. Well, here's the thing. I really want to go the extra mile for you here. If I was to give you guys a super crazy, awesome turbocharged deal that you'll probably never see on it ever again, would you maybe consider it? Right? And they'd be like, "Yeah, what do you got?" I'd be like, "Cool. Well, let me ask you this, Mrs. Jones. Um, if you were to get a little bit of a better deal on what you're looking at, would you prefer more like free stuff thrown in, or would you want more of like a discount?" And they'll give you one or the other, right? Say, "Oh, I want a discount." Be like, "Cool. Ms. Jones, just to give you a heads up, so I've been working in direct sales for 7 years now. I've actually trained a lot of salespeople in my career as well. Just to give you a pro tip, I don't care if you're buying a mattress, a blender, a set of knives, a car, whatever it is. If a salesperson ever asks you if you want free stuff or you want a discount, you always tell them both because they can do both. So we're gonna rewind this a little bit. All right, I'm gonna give you guys another chance. Would you rather have some free stuff thrown in, or would you rather have more of a discount? And they're always like, "Oh, we'll have both." I'm like, "Cool, high five. You guys are quick learners, right?" And then I just break down the deal for them and be like, "Cool. So what I'll do here for you is I'll go ahead and discount it down to this. And I know you guys were already looking at so and so, and you're probably going to get those eventually, anyways, too. I'll just go ahead and buy those for you on top of it as well. So if you like that, you think you would use all of that, and you can swing it budget wise, it's a pretty crazy deal. It might make sense to go with it. But what do you guys think? Right? And a lot of the time they'll go for it. I've closed a lot of flatware chests on that. There's also the close where if they already bought something like a few knives, I usually say under $500 worth of stuff. They can get a little crazy after that. I'm usually comfortable giving them like four, maybe $500 worth of stuff. I've rarely done it, but let's say they buy like a 3-piece special, right, or like a 4-piece special or a 5-piece special. You can actually offer to buy them their set that they just bought by adding on the flatware. So if somebody bought a 4-piece and you show them the flatware, they're really interested in it, you can use that as a drop down. If they don't add it on, be like, "Hey, can I just give you a super crazy turbocharged deal?" And be like, "I tell you what, if you go ahead and just get the flatware right now, since you're going to get it later anyways, I will literally just buy you your whole order. That's, blank worth of stuff plus the blank discount that you're already getting." It's a pretty crazy deal. I can't do that later because, you're already getting this order, but if you're going to get it later, it probably just makes sense. Right. So that's another way to close. Now, if you're adding on flatware, you need to promote bundle deals. So this has been huge for me. Bundle deals are awesome. So a lot of the time, the way I phrase it is I'll tell people, "Hey, since you're getting your set of knives, just so you know what happens a lot of the time is people will come back next year and they'll be like, 'Hey, Matt, I love my knives. I've cut myself like 12 times. They're phenomenal. What else do you make?' And a lot of my customers will add on the flatware or the cookware or our business gifts or whatever. What a lot of people are doing now is they're actually bundling their deals together so that way they can save a lot of money in the long run. Just out of curiosity, have you guys seen our flatware before? And I love people who pick up the flatware during my new customer approach because I'm like, "Oh, dude, you're done. I'm totally upselling you on this," right? So with those people, you need to kind of frame it as like, "Hey, you guys are probably going to get it down the road. So it might make sense to take a look at how much you can save by getting it with your knives or getting it with your cookware, whatever you bundle it with. Can I just show it to you just for grins?" Right? might make sense just to see how much you can save by getting it with your blank. Can I just show you it just for grins, right? And so when I'm price positioning that though, I always go from full price. I show them, hey, the retail price of it is this. The discount price of it is this, and then the bundle discount of it is this, right? Give them a little extra deal, and then have one less drop down or two you can use for when they probably tell you they want to pick them, which happens a lot of the time, right? So remember, you guys can use a lower price as an opportunity to add more value. Now, what I mean by that is a lot of people use their drop downs just to drop down on price. I use my drop downs as not only a drop down on price, but I also use it as an opportunity for me to add more value for them. Because some people just need more value added; they don't just need a lower price. So when you're dropping down and you show them a little bit of a lower price, you can throw in a few more money lines as to why it makes sense for them to get this. And that's just when it comes to dropping down with anything. So quick little pro tip, whenever you're dropping down, always find an opportunity to add more value while you're showing a lower price. But yeah, definitely combine those two and they're probably going to buy. You need to give them more reasons to buy now. So I'll go through my approach with you guys really quickly, because I always find it helpful to role play and kind of see exactly what other people do. But anyways, if someone comes up and looks at the flatware, they're at the booth, they'll be like, hey, have you ever heard of have you seen our flatware before? Like, no. Cool. Can I just tell you a little bit about it really quick so you know? They're like, yeah, absolutely. They're like, cool. Well, the thing that's awesome about this stuff here is the first thing you'll notice is it's really lightweight. It's not like that big, bulky, heavy flatware that like falls off your plate when you put it on, but it's also really durable as well. It's not going to bend on you like lighter types of high-end flatware, so you kind of get the best of both worlds. You ever dig into the ice cream jar and then it kind of bends back on you? Yeah, that's never going to happen with this stuff. So, and the thing is, it's because of the steel quality that we use, Mrs. Jones. Now, just a pro tip: whenever you guys are looking for flatware, there's a few different things. There's 18.6, there's 18.8, there's 18.10. 18.10 is going to be the best you can get because it stays shiny and it's also very scratch resistant, and it just looks phenomenal. And it's also never going to rust or tarnish on you too, which is great because a lot of people have a problem with that. So, and then you'll notice on the back of this, Mrs. Jones, I always flip over the fork or spoon or whatever, and I'll show them. You'll notice on the back of this, it says USA. We're actually one of the last flatwares made in America, which we take like a ton of pride in. So to be honest with you though, I've been doing this for 7 years. And the main problem that I found is a lot of people will get a set of flatware and then 5 years later, they run it through the garbage disposal, they lose a flatware piece, and they can't replace it because they don't make the same design on it anymore. So what ends up happening is people just end up with all this mismatched flatware in their home, which is super embarrassing when you're trying to set the table with, or it's just a mess. Or they just got to go buy a whole new set, and the process just kind of repeats itself, and people get really frustrated. So the thing is that's great about Cutco is we never changed it. We've had the same design for the past since we've had it, and we'll never change it. So if something gets nicked up, you send it back, they send you a new one because it's Cutco with the guarantee, right? If you lose a couple of pieces, you call me up, you're like, hey Matt, I lost 4 forks and spoon and I just replaced them for you at a discount. It's always going to look like the other ones. And just so you know, part of my personal guarantee, one thing I do for my clients is your first 4 forks and spoons that you lose, I will actually replace those for you on me, which is, benefit of working with me. But the thing is, I'm just a really big believer in minimizing, Mrs. Jones. Like, so many people have 4 different sets of flatware they use for 4 different things, and I just tell people just get one good set of flatware that you can use for everything. You'll notice this is simple enough where you can use it for your everyday, but it's also elegant enough where you can use it for your holiday. So it's kind of like your one and done chest, right? And then I go, oh, I almost forgot. The coolest thing about our flatware is this right here. And I'll grab a stainless table knife and I'll like hand it to them like gold, right? Be like, this is our stainless table knife. Now, Ms. Jones, a lot of flatware comes with a butter knife, right? It's nice that our flatware comes with a butter knife that actually cuts exceptionally well too. And I always cut the leather with them. Always cut the leather with the stainless table knife. I hold that out, pull it right up. And I'm like, so you can imagine what it's like to set the table with that and have people just blown away that your butter knives actually cut. People are totally blown away and totally impressed by it. It's one of my favorite parts of their stainless table knife. So I don't know if you've ever considered replacing your flatware. But I mean, if you guys were looking at a set of flatware, would you be more of like a 12 place setting, 24 place setting, or more of like a 36 place setting type of household? They tell you, oh, we probably just use 12. Yeah, cool. Yeah, a lot of people just start with 12. And if you need more, you can always add more later. But yeah, usually people want to know what the cost of this stuff is. Is it okay if I just show you the price on it real quick? Like, yeah, sure. So, and by the way, if they ever ask, if they're ever like, how much is it? Just be like, whatever you're thinking, think like a lot more. It's always a good response. Whatever you're thinking, Mrs. Jones, think like a lot more, right? So when they ask how much it is, I go, cool. Now, Cutco's not cheap. Good things aren't cheap and cheap things aren't good. I'm sure, as a Cutco owner with our knives, I'm sure you've never seen Cutco and cheap in the same sentence, right, Mrs. Jones? Good flatware is expensive, just like anything. If you want quality, you got to pay for it. If you look at some of these other brands here, which I always bring up my price comparison, a lot of these guys here, they're not American made. They're definitely good quality, but they're not American made and they're not guaranteed. They'll cost you about $200-300 a place setting sometimes. So, Mrs. Jones, it's not abnormal to spend like 2-3 grand on a really, really good set. Now, you got to think this is 60 pieces of Cutco, and it actually costs right around that. The retail price of our flatware here is going to, for the chest and the serving pieces, cost about $24.82, right? That's the normal price on it. Now, what's crazy is like if you're looking at some of our sets here, I always flip back to the homemaker signature and ultimate page, and I go, yeah, if you spend 2,600 bucks with us and get a full set of knives, they'll save you about 500 bucks, right, on a $2,600 purchase. This is one of the only things that we're doing that it's $24.82 retail, but it's discounted down $815. It's only $16.67 for the whole entire thing, which brings it to only blank over the 5 months. Oh, and this is a really cool thing too. When you bought your knives, by the way, did you pay for it all at once or did you split it up? And I always ask that question just to kind of gauge them. And a lot of times they're like, oh, well, we just paid for it. Like, oh, cool. You should definitely know about this then. A lot of the time people don't wake up on, you know, August 13th and say, hey, I got 2-3 grand to spend on flatware today. It just doesn't really happen. But rather than waiting and spending a lot more later with the price increases, and I don't know how long we'll be doing this deal for, what we allow you to do is actually spread it out over 5 months. There's no interest, no financing, no credit check. They just take the exact amount wherever you buy and spread it out for 5 months for you. So it basically comes to about, whatever, 300 something. Comes to about blank today. And that just comes out once today and then charges 4 more times. It's kind of like buying a couple of Cutco knives right now, and then you just kind of spread it out over time as time goes on. Does that make sense? I'm like, cool. So, yeah, I don't know if this is something you guys would be considering, but if it's something you're probably going to get at some point, you like it, you're going to use it all the time, you can fit it in the budget. Okay, probably makes sense just to go with it. But what do you think? Right? And that's essentially the approach. And then you can handle the objections that they have from there, whether they want to walk around and think about it, whatever happens. Throw in some free stuff to sweeten the deal, whatever it is. But that's essentially my whole approach, and I just love it because it's just short and sweet at the end of the day.